We're ready?
Right.
Good.
Are we good, Patricia?
Are we ready?
Yep.
Thank you, Trish. Good morning to all. Welcome to our May 18th meeting of the Warren County Local Development Corporation. Trish, could I get a roll call vote first of all, please?
Peter McDevitt,
Here.
Craig Leggett,
Here.
Brad McCowen, Eugene Merlino,
Here.
Robert Landry,
Here.
Michael Wild, Mark Smith,
Here.
Jim Siplin.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Can I, first of all, we have a guest in Don DeVito from Kirsch Helmets. So welcome, Don. And we look forward to hearing some information relative to the most advanced impact technology on earth, a true American innovation. I love those words. Very well done. Can I then, first of all, get a motion to approve the minutes of our April 20th meeting? Supervisor Leggett.
I wasn't here. Take one of those.
Supervisor Merlino, seconded by Supervisor Smith. Questions, comments? All those in favor?
I think we have to roll call it, don't we?
Okay,
Do we? Well, I think in the era of,
okay, that's fine.
Peter McDevitt,
Here.
Craig Leggett,
yes.
Eugene Merlino,
Yes.
Robert Landry,
Yes.
Mark Smith,
Yes.
Jim Siplin.
No, I mean, I don't vote.
Oh, sorry.
Financial update, Diane.
Yeah.
Morning, everyone. The LDC currently has 7 active loans. We received 4,561 from our current loan recipients. One loan recipient did not pay this month, has been granted 6-month pause through to the end of June. We also received 1,059 from Superior Cantina. That's the settlement checks that we've been receiving from the Chapter 13 bankruptcy. We have 20,000 currently due from the EDC. From Warren County, sorry, they have been invoiced. We reinvested for 6 months on the 18th of April. So the interest we earned for the first 6 months on our CD was 4,220. We have money due to the EDC, which we just signed the check today. Yeah, as for statement activities, you know, that the earnings from the bank and the CD interest put us favorably ahead of budget. The only expenses are a service contract with the EDC. The only expense was the housing study. And the accounting fees for the audit. That wasn't this month, though. That was earlier in the year. I don't know. Do you want to talk about this now?
Well, we'll finish with the financials and then we'll enter into a conversation about CD options going forward.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about the financials?
Yes. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So from Superior Cantina, is that 1,059 total we have received from them, or was that the latest?
That's the latest. So that's the third check. It's about, I want to say it's about 2,600 that we've received.
Okay,
That's in addition to what we believe to be the final settlement. So all of that is going to be positive to our estimates that we put in the budget, because at the time that we accepted the settlement, we didn't expect any further payments.
right, we had written it off, right? That was one we wrote off.
So you're going to see that as, it'll have a journal entry that essentially sees it as unbudgeted income associated with prior settlement. And we will keep on the journal entry the fact that it was associated with Superior Cantina, but it will not go back. We will not open last year's financials and say that our total amount that we received is being adjusted.
It gets booked as additional as miscellaneous income.
Right.
It doesn't get booked as to the loan.
You open up a real can of worms, you go into the previous year, right?
That's right.
Robert, did you manage to speak with them? Or did somebody from your office speak with the chapter 13 trustee?
With the trustee. I haven't gotten any more updates on it since we last, if we last spoke on it before. They don't anticipate many more payments, if any, from it, because that plan is just about closed. And they actually didn't anticipate that there would even be this, because it was what they call a 0% plan for these kind of debts that wouldn't gotten anything. They're actually kind of taking it to, this is extra, like extra money from the plan over the time that they didn't even anticipate they'd be paying some of these later debts. They thought they'd be getting nothing for Superior, here for the LDCs, and there were a few others. They didn't tell me what ones they were, but some other creditors too, who are actually getting money that weren't supposed to get it, that are getting a little bit. So to them, it's kind of like nice. It's an extra little windfall that they didn't even anticipate having to pay out of the plan, the confirmation plan of the debtor. So they'll, pay it because it was one of the claims that was presented to them, and it's one of the claims out there. So they'll pay it because they have to pay it that way. But they were actually kind of surprised there was any money left over to even pay that.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank
Any,
you.
go ahead.
I just didn't know if there were other questions.
Any further observations, questions? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve the April 23 financials, please?
So move.
Second.
Mr. Landry and Supervisor Leggett, all those in favor?
Aye.
I think Patricia, you got to go through the vote.
That's right.
Chair McDevitt,
Yes.
Craig Leggett,
Yes.
Eugene Merlino.
Yes.
Robert Landry.
Yes.
Mark Smith.
Yes.
So I think, did everybody get the sheet? This sort of color grid?
Yes.
So this is, I was asked to do a CD investment analysis. I tried to make it like really reader friendly. So the rates, so the current balance you see is on the right-hand side at the top. It says the current balance in the TD account right now is $610,450. I think we discussed leaving 200,000 in that account at all times. So we would invest 400,000. There's two schemes that I showed you. One was for a 6-month investment and one is for a 3-month investment. And you have the CD rates. If you want to look at different months, different timeframes, those are on the right. They might have changed today, though. So in short, if we were to invest in the 3 months cycle, we would make a little bit more than the 6-month cycle by $600.
Well, I also think it offers us more
Flexibility.
opportunity. The money comes available to us faster. So if we decided there were areas we wanted to invest, we would have more freedom. So to me, this feels like the recommended approach. But I wanted to make sure that everyone understood it well enough before we made any decision.
Yeah, no, I agree, Jim. For something like this, especially with what we're trying to do here, I think we need to remain as nimble as we can. And a 3-month, we talked about this on one of my first meetings. It usually takes a month to get the process done. So one of the two things is going to come due if we need the money.
Right.
And I think looking at the spread of the CD rates, that's kind of the sweet spot is 3 months.
So just, it may not be obvious to everyone, but what the bank is doing is betting that interest rates are actually going to come down during that period of time. So they're giving you a rate for a short term that's higher than on the long term because they believe that 6 months from now, you're not going to be able to secure that same rate. This is an important input, even no matter what you do. The bank is telling you something about what they see to be the capital climate of the coming year. I found this as insightful as anything they've ever said. So that they're essentially saying that they believe interest rates are not going to rise in the coming year. You know, that's what this pricing is telling you. So this is our opportunity, I think, to capture these rates either way. If we're to believe their guidance.
Okay, so this is going on the 200,000 we already have invested, which is up to 204,220 according to the balance sheet, correct? And then we are going to be investing hundreds of thousands of dollars more into CDs, correct?
If you choose to, yeah.
What's that?
If you choose to, yeah,
Yes.
up to 200,000.
We're suggesting some
Up
figure,
to 400, sorry.
some figure. I think $200,000 is the right middle place, but you could potentially put as much as $400,000 and you just essentially are taking more cash away from your liquidity.
But we're not using our liquidity at all. We already have over $1.5 million in cash as it is, plus the 200,000 that's already there. We haven't spent any of that cash. We've made quite a lot on interest. So why don't we just go big and put a lot into 3-month CDs until we start getting some loan applications or figure out what to do with all this cash?
I think there's very little risk that you will have either operational cost in that 3-month period of time or significant loan activity. I'm going to report to you later that we are seeing an uptick in interest, but I don't believe that you're going to need the full value of your cash in the next 90 days. So I'm basically agreeing with you, Greg, that makes sense from our standpoint.
I agree with Craig as well. I agree
Yeah, same here. Go big or stay home.
So are we looking for,
So you have at your option to direct us via a spontaneous resolution to go ahead and do it, or we could take this up formally a month from now. I
Why
don't see
waste
any
a
reason
month?
to wait.
Mr. Chairman, one question if I could. We talked about having a rolling
That's right.
a rolling investment so that we've probably got a total, I'm just trying to think of 400 in at any one time. So that it comes out and then we put it back in and one other one comes out a month later and we put it back in. Is that what we want to do?
If I may, when you look at these interest rates, 3 months today are 5.24%. But 3 months from now, they might be down to 5.17%, so if we lock into a 6-month at this time as well, as even though it's a lesser rate, as things go on and rates drop according to these projections that we will have secured a higher interest rate today than we would get in 3 months from now, than we would get 6 months from now, et cetera, if that makes sense.
No, money today's worth more than money tomorrow.
So,
Yeah. So that's gonna come out.
yeah,
So let me just try to sync you up on the timing. We renewed on our initial CD investment last month. If we were to enact this, essentially, if you gave us direction to enact it now, it would probably take us a week to 10 days in order for all of this to be finalized with the bank, which would essentially mean you'd be on a 45-day separation between those two tranches. So you have some degree of that separation. If you wanted the maximum amount of what you would consider to be timed investment, then we would break that $400,000 into $200,000 and take the risk associated with waiting. This is a decision for you as a board to decide whether you want the certainty about the rate or you would like this timing issue that you've just described. But you will get some degree of what you're talking about, Mark, if we enact it now, because we would have that 45-day separation between the two investments.
So if this is an indicator of what rates may look like in the future, I think Supervisor League is probably correct. Let's go big on what we got now and get the percent now, right? That's what we're saying. Take the 5.24% and then see what happens in 45 days when this other amount comes due and see what we want to do with that.
We invest in a 6-month or a 3-month.
Previously?
Yeah.
We previously invested in a 6-month.
Oh,
That
okay.
will mature in October, mid-October
Okay,
of this year. So
okay,
that's the first 200,000 that we already invested. So you're talking about putting 400,000 in a 3-month? Is that what I understand?
Right. Then that would actually be available to you sooner than your 6-month tranche.
Yeah.
sooner the better. you know.
Essentially,
do that,
August
so-
15th in that neighborhood is when you would have these $400,000 back available to you.
Mhm.
And then in early October, you would have the initial $200,000 renewal back available.
So let's see, there's May, so this will probably hit July. August, September, so it would be 1 month, you know.
Well, if you put it in May, it'll mature in August.
June, July, August.
Okay.
I believe that you will be well served by having that cash available to you to either reinvest at that time or to potentially invest in some of the other things we're going to discuss later in the meeting. I don't believe you're going to have significant need for it in the next 90 days.
Yep. I'm just wondering, you mentioned there's some things going on now. Should we look at those first before making
Yeah, that's fair.
this
You
decision?
could
So that way we
come back to this discussion at the end, whether you want to move forward with this or not.
Okay.
That make any sense? I mean, yeah. Oh, I just, if, we're talking about investing, we haven't heard about the near-term opportunities that,
Yeah, well,
let's.
and let's give us a little time to think this over because I'm looking at our bank balances. What if we left 100,000 in Glens Falls, 200,000 in TD? And then invest basically a total of 85,000 in CDs at this point. Because what's the interest bearing on these Glens Falls and TD as it stands now?
Less than one,
Yeah,
The TD actually are.
1.2, something like that. They raised it recently, but it's still a
right.
fraction of what you're.
Right, it's just the balance is so high. You won't get the same rates from Glens Falls. Though. Just. I don't
They
know.
have that ICS money market that our town has invested in, and we're getting 4.8% or so in that. Is that available to us?
They have not offered that to us, but we asked specifically for CDs. I don't think we asked for any money.
Actually, we asked for the EDC and the EDC doesn't have the same kind of government account. So the LDC would probably have better rates than the EDC.
But we didn't ask for money market, so that's something that we could inquire about.
And the nice thing around those money market accounts is that call them up and money can transfer that day.
Well, I'm happy to come back around to this at the
Yeah.
end of the meeting if you'd like.
Let's do that.
Why don't we do that? Any more? Dan?
No, that's it for me.
Good.
Oh, no, actually, sorry. We wanted to update the loan application on the website. Basically, sorry. I just wanted to let you know. So we have a loan applicant who came forward this week. We're going to meet with her next week. She was looking at the loan application online. It's out of date. The interest rate was listed at 4%, I believe. So we pulled the loan application immediately off the website and we're going to be revising it. I will probably send it out to board members over the next week with revisions for you to review and comment or add.
Okay.
Thank you, Dan. Jim, review of what's going on?
Well, so I want to share some interesting things with you. We've had some back and forth with some members of the greater community that have suggested that I'll share with you separately some of the exchange that occurred, but it basically the nature of this inquiry basically suggested that this group has done nothing and continues to do nothing and then uses profanity to explain how they would define that. Separately, we will have to address that exchange and whether or not any follow-up is called for there. I'm particularly concerned about staff members continuing to be exposed to what I consider to be online abuse. But I'd like to just get to the heart, which is to dispel the core premise. When I was at the Economic Development Committee, I guess roughly 6 weeks ago, I felt like I had to kind of undo some of this narrative that had been pushed out in a misleading way before, and I'll continue to do it every time that it's required. This organization has existed for 50 years. It was originally birthed by the county. It has provided loans to more than almost 50, I think it's 48 organizations in our community during that period of time. It also, its original funding supported scores of individual residents of Warren County with repair funds and funds to help them maintain their properties. That is our history. If you look at 50 successful loan applications over 50 years, that should give you a sense of what the long-term pace is. Our current portfolio is roughly the same size as it has always been. Somewhere between 5 and 10 active loan participants in almost the entire life of the LDC. I think sometimes the more reactionary members of our community tend to forget the fact that we continue to serve those 7 loan recipients. That this LDC engages with them, if not monthly, and we're going to hear from one of those today, but certainly regularly. We provide them with business support. We provide them with resources. We do anything we can to help them be successful. The notion that because someone's loan was approved 3 years ago, that nothing has happened here is utter nonsense. And I find it offensive to the work that goes on by the team that I lead. It essentially demeans them and it demeans the loan recipients themselves, as if the value was essentially realized the day that we agreed to help them and that our relationship ended. It didn't end then, it began. So I first want, with my backup, to share with you the fact that we should not let this perception stand that because no one has come forward with a loan application in the last 18 months for very legitimate reasons, which we spent a lot of time talking about, that there has not been value that has been delivered economically to the community during that period of time. The second part of this is that the investments that we're considering, and I'd like to talk to you about several, require 2 things. They require really thorough analysis if we're going to engage, because an organization's been around for 50 years and makes a generational type of investment, should not reactionarily do anything. Because someone comes and makes a presentation, should not be cutting a check in 30 to 60 days to appease the need for action. The work we do is slow, and it represents the inertia in a good sense of backing the things that are needed over the long haul. If we make a commitment to childcare, to housing, to public transportation, to anything that is outside of what would be considered our current portfolio, then we're essentially saying that we are now committed to that for an extended period of time. We're not simply writing a check. We are signaling that this is a priority of the community that we will continue to invest our time, our resources, and our money in to ensure that its capacity grows and its impact increases. These are significant decisions. And all of you as leaders in our community have experienced this in your day-to-day lives. It took a year and a half for you as a county to basically agree last Friday to bring CDTA under in agreement with the county. That's appropriate. There were a lot of questions that had to be asked. There were a lot of what ifs that had to be considered. And there had to be a sense of engaging the public in order to both sense the need, but also build support. I would suggest to you that we are in the midst of doing exactly that. Over the past year, we have looked at several things around housing. We looked, for instance, at land banks. We determined that the amount of impact that we could get for the financial contribution we could make may not be the appropriate investment at this time. But we spent more than 6 months attending workshops, meetings, engaging with other municipalities, talking to the State Association of Land Banks, talking to banks, and talking to you before we came to that determination. Because we didn't say yes does not mean that we didn't do anything. What that meant was we explored with earnestness an important topic and then made a determination that was probably in our own interest that that wasn't the right thing to do. I would not consider that to be either a waste of time or unproductive, I would consider that to be the kind of behavior the public expects from us. We've also, during that period of time, heard from childcare advocates. During that period of time, other organizations were looking to step into that same need. But in particular, turned out to be a source of funds for at least one, if not multiple, entities that had childcare at their core. In addition, there were entities that came to the EDC and to the LDC to explore potential loans and were determined that there were better financial vehicles available to them at the time. We referred people to the SBA process. We referred people to other loan funds during that period of time around childcare. Your interest in childcare, that demand out, it created the interaction that we had with people. The fact that the LDC didn't write the loan doesn't mean that you did not generate value in terms of helping getting that capacity established in our community. I would say right now, the new player that we need to explore is how the LDC could potentially be a partner or a participant in whatever is appropriate in the next chapter of public transportation here. Assuming Glens Falls Transit's routes, which is what Carm from CDTA said they were going to do in the short term, is the first step, obviously. But the real potential, as several of you raised during that conversation at the county level, is what could we do over time? Our needs, and what any organization like his needs, is a proof of ROI on any investment that they made. So if we ever wanted to try to create a viable extension of their routes, for instance, to create a route between North Creek and Lake George, or to extend the existing routes of CDTA further north along the shores of the lake, or to better connect some of our more rural communities or more far-flung communities in the county. The key to that will probably be establishing ridership and demand. If we want to accelerate that, what we could potentially do is look to put some of our funds to work in the private sector to create small pilots that would generate the ridership that could potentially eventually be taken on by CDTA. This has happened successfully in our community before. During COVID, we hosted from the EDC regular calls, and Supervisor Wild, you were a regular participant, as were others in those. And one of those was around the tourism sector and the hospitality sector, where several of those organizations, together with the EDC, basically birthed for a summer a bus route, a private bus route from Albany into Lake George. I don't want to be too, I don't want to take too much credit, but I think that that was part of creating the momentum for the CDTA closure that we have today, because it created a demonstration of the demand, and it also demonstrated that the community itself was ready to step into it. So I think we have a template that we could potentially pursue if you would like me to. I've got active engagements with large employers such as Six Flags or some of the other large employers along the lake. We have regular engagement with Orta, which is the largest employer in North Creek, but there are others. Barton Mines and others could potentially benefit from being able to open a transportation segment to their corridor. I'm not sure what I'm going to propose to you yet, because I think we got to find out from the businesses themselves what might serve them. One thing that I know right away is that the connection to South Glens Falls was one of the things that was championed almost immediately by business leaders after your agreement to take CDTA on. The idea of being able to bring people from northern Saratoga County into Warren County to address the more than 1,000 open jobs we have was championed almost immediately by the largest employers in our region as something that they absolutely wanted to build on. And in fact, we're meeting with both the hospital and Heads on Headwaters in the coming week to determine if there is a next step that we could potentially define with them to either expand capacity or expand the routes so that they could get even more benefit from what already exists. I say all this to you because we do a lot of work that maybe is not easily seen. And I don't feel like I need to establish it to you, but you are the vessel that we speak to the rest of the public. I would say in the past month, we have, as a staff, spent somewhere between 30 and 40 hours exploring the ideas that I've just described to you. In no way are we attempting to capture all of that back. That's part of our role as the economic development entity of the area. It doesn't really matter whether we do it under the banner of the LDC or the EDC. But this work does generate results. It does generate value. And if we only evaluate that based on the number of loan recipients that we have, I think we're both misunderstanding our own role and also selling ourselves short. The fact that you show up here every single month and have most of you for years committing to this is the backbone of what I consider to be the ecosystem of economic development here. And later today, we're going to hear from a business that recognizes that value and continues to need it. Along those lines, in the past month, since I saw you last, under the banner of both the EDC and the LDC, we participated in several large regional events, the first of which was Adirondack Day at the legislature. I have to say it was a really wonderful thing to be involved. We were not typically included with the rest of the Adirondacks in their day where they essentially advocate for their needs to the legislature. The reason that we did is because of the work that the reason they invited us is because of the work that we have done to work with other entities on these common problems, such as housing, such as childcare, such as broadband. And the fact that we were involved meant that we were able to add our needs to the larger region's needs, but also that the rest of the region sees us as an important ally in getting that investment made. In the most recent legislative budget, actually, comes from the governor, I guess, but, eventually has to be adopted by the legislature. There's more than $400 billion that has been allocated to the Adirondacks. Having a seat along with the other important entities in the region about how those monies are going to be utilized is really important. And so I don't want to let this go by. You are represented now by virtue of the fact that we have a seat at that table. And immediately, people were talking about how they could take the template of what's been happening around areas such as broadband and now public transportation and learn from that and build larger regional models into the Adirondacks around it. I want to applaud you for the fact that the work you did was seen when you engaged in discussion about the land trusts. People noticed that it was the LDC that was doing it. Greg, you brought us into many of those rooms. It did not go for naught. After that, we went to the Capital Region Economic Development Council where they allocate the funds associated with the CFA process from the state. Again, we're given a seat at that table, even if we're not a formal board member, because of the amplified role that we play. The area is increasingly viewed as the lens by which the entire capital region is seen by the rest of the world. If you go to Regeneron, which is a biotech company in, Rensselaer, basically, if you go to their webpage, they're other than the chip fab, they're the single largest recruiting effort going on in upstate New York right now. There's a picture of Lake George. That is what they're selling to somebody who lives in Austin, Texas, that they're trying to convince to come here and work in this region. That's not an accident. We will continue to be viewed as the source of the lifestyle and the appeal of being in the Capital District. I'm pleased to report that to you. I'm pleased to be able to say that now the leadership of the Regional Economic Development Council asks for our thoughts and input as well as our needs as a matter of course. I don't think that was always occurring before. The Startup 80K program, which the LDC sponsors together with Washington County's LDC, just graduated its most recent 10-person cohort. I received the presentations from all of those organizations. These are entities that are essentially building a business plan to potentially build a business. Some of them do, some of them don't. But there were important and I think promising ventures that were presented to us. I'll give you an example. There was a gentleman that's working as a surveyor right now for another company that recognizes the critical shortage that we have in the North Country of that particular resource and wants to step into it with his own company to do it. A very thoughtful plan about how to do that. It's been embarked on this process for about 2 years and will eventually come to the LDC like another surveyor did 3 years ago for startup funds when they launch into that. There's an organization that is branding imagery around the Adirondacks in kind of a lifestyle sort of way. They make stickers and what you might consider to be the kind of stuff that you would see on millennials' cars and computers and things that essentially help them tell the world what they love and what they brand. I found their imagery compelling and I found their business plan promising. They've already reached out to us as the LDC for interim support. Short of a loan requirement, they're trying to better develop their business plan. And they specifically asked for engagement with the county's tourism department so that they could better understand how they could build things that would align with the messages that the county was already promoting. All of that comes because we support with a minimal investment this program at SUNY 80K. I looked at the history of that. There's more than 200. And since the LDC stepped in, 200 entities that have gone through that program. Sometimes they make a decision that they don't want to advance their business. Sometimes they do. That would not exist without you. I don't think we talk enough about it. I will make sure that we get you a formal report of the entities that have come through in the past year so that it's not just anecdotal like I shared with you. But this is an example of what may not be obvious. Finally, I just, as Deanne said, we've actually had active engagement where people are looking to fill out loan applications for the first time in quite some time. I believe that we're meeting with them next week. I believe we'll have a loan application for you certainly in the next 30 to 60 days to evaluate or at least to bring through the business review committee. And then I want to give some time to Donnie later in the meeting to talk a little bit about Kirsch, which is an important one that we already have in our portfolio. The last thing I wanted to mention to you is the work that we do with supporting businesses goes well beyond providing them with direct financial incentives. One of the things they're all struggling with is workforce. So collaboration with the county's workforce development with LISA and the Workforce Development Board and with SUNY Adirondack and the various entities like BOCES in our community that are already working to attempt to divert as many people as they can into this workforce shortage. We, the EDC, are bringing back the speaker that we had last year who presented the demographic drought, Rachel Sederberg. Their organization is one of the leading economic institutions that's doing applied research around the current challenges of our national economy. They have a new work product called the Wading into the Workforce of Tomorrow. And I have a copy of their most recent report that any of you would like, I can happily give to you. But on June 15th of this year, we're bringing her back to speak. What she's specifically going to do in conjunction with SUNY Adirondack, in conjunction with BOCES, in conjunction with many of our school leadership, is to talk about how we better educate young people and the support systems around them about the opportunities that exist in direct trade-related employment immediately after graduating from high school. Oftentimes we view this as a secondary path to the default route of sending people directly into college. More than 80% of current high school students assume that the default path for them is to go to school, to continue to go to school. This is exacerbating the labor shortage that we have. If you think back to the time when you were of that age, the number of people that went on to four-year schools versus those that entered the workforce was much more balanced. So the idea that our workforce is aging is contributing to this, but another part of this is the movement away from understanding the value of directly investing in a trade. What we're really going to try to do is help people understand the economics of that, the economics to the individual and the economics of that to the community. If we could invest in creating incentives for people to forestall going to school. I don't think it means that you don't go back to school or don't get a 4-year degree. I think it really changes the order. If you're 18 and you decide to go and do a trade, let's just say you want to immediately monetize, you go get a CDL license, for instance. Within months, you'd be able to be actively employed in our community in about 30 different places because there's such a critical shortage. If you were a CDL driver, you know what you pay those CDL drivers. You'd immediately be creating net positive worth for yourself, not debt. You'd be building skills and work experience. You'd be maturing, and you'd be meeting a critical need of our community. It seems like a place where we want to both understand the psychology and the choices, better educate people around the economics, and possibly invest in some incentives here. Another place the LDC could play a role, which is why I'm spending so much time talking to you about this, because we're going to bring this topic to the larger audience. When I was at the WCLDC meeting yesterday in Albany, the representative from the governor's office came to me and asked how they register for this. Because we're the ones that are bringing the research to bear on the topics that matter in this area. And he said, we're definitely coming. I've read the report. I want to talk to this woman that wrote it. I want to learn more. I want to figure out what more we can do. I found that to be really promising. The idea here that we have developed a reputation for bringing this information in a way that is helpful for people to change their policy approaches and maybe change the way that investment gets done is promising. It's just promising for us too, for us to better educate ourselves about it so we can decide if this is a place the LDC might want to invest. That's why I gave you the flyer. I hope that if you're able to join us, you are. If you're not, read the report and we'll try to give you as much access to the information as we can. All of these things matter. Our economy is not simply about helping a business with a loan. That's an important part, but it is not the only part that we do here. And I want to thank you for your continued attention to this. In my tenure here as the leader of the EDC and the LDC, this group has shown the greatest continuity of purpose of any group that I've been engaged with. They just keep coming every single month and trying to figure out what else we can do. Sometimes you will not get the community telling you that that's valued, but I'm going to tell you that when I walk outside of this region, when I am in Albany at 80K Day, when I'm sitting inside of a regional economic development council, when I am in the Common Ground Alliance forum meetings in the Greater Adirondacks, your presence and your commitment to this is recognized. It is valued. It is something that people both applaud and need. Okay. That's everything I can say about where we stand.
Mark.
First, I want to apologize to Jim when I chuckled when he started talking about the trade schools, because I graduated from Clarkson. I'm a double E. If you graduate from Clarkson today, you've probably invested close to 200 grand. And if you go to BOCES, even BOCES, to be an electrician, you're investing almost nothing. And when those two people enter the workforce at the same time, I can tell you here, sitting here with complete confidence, that electrician is going to be making more than that engineer.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to be making more than that engineer for a while. It's just because of a couple of reasons. One, there's not many of them around anymore. Everybody seems to want to go to college. And since I came back from Japan, I've spoken at my high school every year to graduating students. And what I tell them is, don't get locked into this, I got to go to college thing. There's a lot of other opportunities out there. For me, I went to Clarkson, couldn't afford the second year. So I went into the Army. Army has a lot of opportunities. And 20 years you're out, you've got a great skill that can translate into a lot of different public sectors. So I encourage people to consider the military, to consider, I urge people to consider, trade schools. And in Europe, in fact, they actually make that separation in junior high school. You've got to kind of make, we're asking our seniors to make a decision at 18. They're asking them to make it at 13. You're going to be a professional or you're going to be a tradesman. And then they send them on their ways. And that way they've got a balanced workforce when they come out at the end of the day. I'm all about getting people into these trade schools and try to dispel the myth that, college is the only way to go. I think one of the reasons we're in trouble today is some of these people go to college and if they got it's just a 4-year vacation. Then they're walking out, they've got a degree in underwater BB stacking or something. They can't, there's no job for them. And meanwhile, they've got this huge debt over their head. Where that should be rationalized earlier. And just as a last plug, I don't know if you've heard the book, What Colors Your Parachute? But when I talk to the kids at Canada, I encourage them to use that book. Because it tells you what you're good at, maybe not what you like, but what you're good at. And I think that's a focus of a good focus. But yeah, this university thing is I'm sorry, I'm apologizing for that because
Well, I want to be clear, we are in no way dispelling the value of public education, particularly for your schools. But one of the attributes we have in our community is a very nimble institution in City Adirondack that is oriented at being able to fill both the 2-year front end of any college preparatory program, but also the needs to bring people directly into the workforce in that period of time. One of the presentations I heard yesterday at the CREDC meeting was the fact that the region itself is at a critical shortage of nurses and medical technicians. There are more than 600 openings for nurses in the Capital District alone. That's just registered nurses. If you add LPNs and nurse practitioners, it gets to be thousands. That's a immediate place where people can gain a 2-year degree from SUNY Adirondack or in a number of other institutions and immediately both meet a critical need and start to benefit economically themselves. It does not forestall their ability to enter into a professional medical world. It actually accelerates it. The rates at which people enter medical school from the practical world, the success rates are far greater than those that come straight through school. So if you go work as a nurse and you work in the field and you decide you want to work as a doctor, you actually have far greater chance of success of navigating your way through medical school and being able to do that without accruing the levels of debt. I heard all of this yesterday in the presentation, but luckily we have a school here that is prepared to help. That we have an asset that many communities do not, that's already producing scores of nurses and could potentially produce more if we can figure out how to increase the pipeline that they're getting. So I want to encourage all of you to come if you can and stay close to this topic, because if we're going to help our employers, this is going to be part of the story. I think based on the fact that we just talked about a lot of the businesses, it may be a time when it might be appropriate to let Donnie.
Yeah, it'd be wonderful. I'm sure Don would love to get up, and Don has got 30 years worth of experience. He's president and chief operating officer of Kirsch Helmets.
Mr. Chairman, while he's approaching the podium, first off, I'd like to apologize for being late. It was a technology issue. But I did want to mention something to Jim. Jim, when you're in Albany and other places, don't give away all the secret sauce.
Okay. How about, hey, Ron, why don't you go down to what says Brad McGowan there
Yeah.
and turn that screen on? And then everybody can see and it can be reported.
Welcome.
I don't think we logged them in.
He's logged in on
Nice, I
the
did.
screen there. Let's just hit the video button.
You get to adjust it. You're
There you
right
go.
There you go.
There we go. Yeah.
How's that?
Good.
Can you hear me fine?
Yeah.
Just speak into the mic.
Well, thank you all for having me here. I'm president and chief operating officer, co-founder of Kirsch Helmets, which is located here on Big Boom Road in Queensbury. And our path or our story started with coming up here to talk to Ed Bartholomew and John Wheatley. In the very beginning, we had a vision for us taking a place here for research and development. We wanted to focus on our technology, which I'll talk to you about in a moment. We wanted to be able to be here in this community, and we had a vision for this work. We wanted to build the first helmet, motorcycle helmet at the time, the first motorcycle helmet that has been made in the United States in more than 25 years. It's the only helmet that's been made in the United States. And still to this day, it continues to be the only helmet manufactured entirely and sourced entirely in the United States. And we do it right here in Warren County. The reason we selected this place and this location was the quality of life, the cost of living, the available workforce, the cooperation and collaboration that we got very much from EDC and from other members of the community, and that we were very successful in raising capital, because as you start a company, as many of you may know who have, you need capital. You're not going to start out with a product. You need to build that, and then you need to go find your customers and be wherever they are. And that's what we were able to do. So thankfully, because we had to work with vendors and lenders and the community and economic development, we were able to raise the money and get the assistance that we needed to be able to do this. And we did it here. We were successful here. And successful at what? Well, as I was telling you, our vision, and you can see over here, and I'll pass it around, or you can look at it later, the first motorcycle helmet. It's our first product. This product is designed to change head protection in a way that no one else has ever tried. We can do it a half an inch with this technology, what it takes 3 inches of foam to do, and it works extremely well. You can just pull that liner right out, pass that around. What's great about this technology is we think it's so innovative and so disruptive that we're going to be able to change head protection forever on a global basis. And we want to do it here, right here in this community. And part of doing that is being able to continue to develop and launch our next product. What you're seeing passed around is our first product. We developed that in the last few years. And as we are sitting here today, we're developing our second product, which is the next motorcycle helmet. That'll be a full face helmet, a different design, but it reaches a much larger part of the global market. And it's something that we're very, very proud of. When we first sat with John, when Jason and I first sat with John and with Ed, we had one patent issued and we had one provisional patent. Since then, we've been able to have 14 issued patents, 7 provisional patents, and we're filed in more than 40 countries now to date. So we're really growing. Our vision to do research and development here at this facility in Queensbury is being fulfilled every day. We have engineers, we have vocational workers, people that come to us from different walks of life. We've gotten awards from Department of Labor. Actually, the last 3 years since we got our loan from you, we've been able to get the Department of Labor Gold Medallion Award for hiring veterans and sustaining a veteran workforce. We expect to get another one here shortly in November. We're also getting awards for hiring people with disabilities, and Americans with disabilities are an important part of the work that we do and how we see ourselves as a company and how we see our role in the community. And this is also another thing that we feel is a gift that we can give as a corporation that doesn't only focus on profits, but on the quality of life that our people live and that we offer to the community that we live in. So we're very thankful. We started with this loan, and I'll go back to in 2020, fall times to take a loan. We got our first loan that was put in place in July of 2020. Since then, our loan was originally 167,000. We paid back 103,000 of that loan. So it's getting smaller. But we came back to the committee and we asked for assistance, because right now all the money that we're spending is on getting our product into the market. It's working capital, it's for manpower, it's for machines, it's for mobility, it's getting our people around the country. When we started, we had no dealerships, we had no locations anywhere, we had no products anywhere. We had a vision. We were able then to achieve successfully the creation of 4 products, which you see this one right here next to me. We created these 4 products. We're on our way to create another 4 products that'll be coming out in 2024 and 25 that will be launching into the market. We're thinking about and starting to look at sports and athletics applications. We're looking at construction, workplace safety, where we can make better construction helmets, make things safer for the people that work in our communities, and at the same time, give first responders better quality helmets for head protection. We think we really can replace foam with fluid in our design. And we want to do it here in this community. Back years ago, when I was investment banking and corporate finance, I participated with Governor Pataki in the creation and his people, many people, Center for Economic Growth and many others, in creating the centers of excellence across New York State, and then recruiting companies to see the same vision. Ultimately, what became Luther Forrest, what became Global Foundries, we were looking to recruit people to this market. And the same reasons that we put stakes, Jason and I put our stakes down in this community were the reasons that we were calling out to all of the other communities and all of the other organizations why they needed to be here. Just like you said, Jim, they come here because of the quality of life, because of what the life in the Adirondacks means, how people's the opportunities that we create, the education, the workforce development, the quality of services that exist here in the community. And this is all thanks to what you've been doing. It's also thanks to what is continuing to grab and take hold as an energy in these communities. So the reason we're here is we need more working capital. So we asked Diane, we asked Jim when we sat with them, how can we work together to continue to support the work that we're doing? We need money to expand. We've gone from no dealers, no companies working with us. Now we're coast to coast. We're from Boston to Los Angeles. We have locations with our partners. We're coming into about 100 locations, and we expect to finish with 200 locations by the end of this year. And next year, we expect to be at 300 when we launch our next helmet. As we begin to also develop our research and directed applications for this technology for our fluid liner, we want to be able to start to work with the big companies at the OEMs, license our technology, manufacture for them, become the Intel inside that's in all our computers, become the Vibram, the Gore-Tex of helmets and head protection. And that's what we're going to do here. But we need that continued support. So what we asked for was some time. We wanted to be able to extend our loan so we could reduce what our burn is. We've screwed down our costs. We've kept that under control. We went through COVID. 44% of all the companies that started at the same time that Jason and I started this company are out of business now. Twice the rate that they would have been if we had not had COVID. COVID really did have an impact. We were able to certify our products. We were able to grow and sell thousands and thousands and thousands of helmets. As we've done significantly well. We've weathered this thanks to the support of our investors and also from you as a community, and specifically from the county. And originally what Ed Bartholomew saw with John Wheatley is the vision that we had for a future for Kirsch helmets in this community, and also for the future of a center of excellence for head protection. And we believe we can do that, but we have to stick around. We have to continue to succeed. We have to be able to do that. What I want to do is lower my burn. I can't rely forever on investors in 2022 and 2023. I don't have to tell you the private equity market, the stock market, the VC market, the ability to source funding for early stage companies has cratered. We managed to get through all that. And we had to work, as I said earlier, we had to work with our vendors and our lenders, and we're coming to the county right now to this committee to ask for help because we want to be able to have more people. We want to expand our operation. We see where we're going to go and we need help. And we're not we're not a banker's dream right now. When you look back on our finances, it is what it is. It's an early stage company that went through a tough time and we slogged it out. And that's what we did. We came to work every day. We bet we didn't break. Our people work really hard. And we ask for this help now. What we're asking for is not more money. We've already paid you back more than half the money that we borrowed from you. We never missed a payment. What we asked for was the ability to extend, and you granted us a little bit of forbearance and interest only, which we appreciate very much. We were looking if we could just increase the tail a little longer, have a little more time to pay you back. Because for us, that couple of $1,000s a month, and I hear your balances and all that, the few $1,000s a month makes a difference for me. Being able to make more helmets, sell more helmets, hire and retain more employees, do the things that I need to do as a businessman to run this business successfully. And lowering my costs, lowering my burn is an important thing that investors want to see from us. And that's something that we can all do together. And it's not going to cost you more money. It just makes you wait a little more time, which is what you have and we don't have as a startup. So I wanted to thank everybody. I'd like to be able to answer questions. But again, getting back to the real reason we're here is nobody has made a helmet in the United States in 25 years. Jason, we have been able to invent and create a brand new technology that deserves to be used on a global basis. We know we save lives. This technology, our helmets, we've already gotten, and you can go to our website and see there are riders out there and testimonials of injuries, of crashes that they've had that saved their lives. And it's because of what we did here. And if we can't provide them with those helmets, some of those people won't be here. And it's because of your help, our hard work, that we were able to do that. We want to be able to continue to do that for the little league ball players, for the kids that play hockey, for the young professionals in the American Hockey League that play, for those that go to school and play baseball. We want to be able to do this for everyone. Someday we're going to do that for construction helmets, and we know workplace safety. Over 80% of all brain injuries that occur, traumatic brain injuries occur for the people that go to work every day doing their job and wind up getting hurt at work. And we can protect them. 84% of all the traumatic brain injuries that occur in the workplace happen on a construction site. And we can make a great construction helmet, and we're going to do that. And with your help, we can stay here and keep doing that. So I'd like to answer questions, but I appreciate the few minutes that you've given me to speak, and I'm looking forward to answering your questions. Or if anyone is, I know a few of you have been to our facility. If any of you would like to come up and see our facility, we'd be more than happy to give you a tour and have the team meet you and tell you about our work. So thank you for the floor.
Yes.
Mark.
You said you have 14 patents. Are they all issued or some?
14 are issued. We have 7 additional provisional patents, but we've yet to file many others that we're still holding as trade secrets, so we don't start the clock on on that.
And the 14 patent families then, so they're all, each one goes out to the international.
Already filed in different countries, so we're filed in 40 countries. The largest and most important to us is the European Union. Yeah, with the trade council that we're able to file through. We're able to file throughout the entire EU, which is about 36 countries that includes. So we're doing that as well, but primarily they're utility patents, design patents, process patents. We have a variety based on different applications that we developed, and we have more to go. And again, money that I spend on paying you back today gives me the opportunity, if I spend that money, I can pay for more patent work, and that opens up the European markets for us and other markets as well. We can all do that. We can do that all here. And as we expand our e-commerce potential and our markets that way as well, we have a significant opportunity.
Yeah, and I know how expensive that could be. I'm in firm.
Oh, it is.
And we're patenting all the time, and it can be, it can
We
get-
spend hundreds of thousands,
Yeah.
we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Mhm.
And this is an interesting thing as well, just the point. We understand that money goes somewhere. We spend that money, well, our patent agents are here in Warren County, in Glens Falls in particular. They do excellent work. And that $250,000 of money has flowed into this community because of who we pay to do that work. We pay our lawyers, we pay our services, we pay our leases. We get support, that money flows into this county. We actually have created $800,000 worth of income in this county. And that's a significant number in 3 years. So since we've gotten this loan, this small loan, if we had gotten this small loan anywhere else, we would have put that $800,000 in some other county. Instead, we put it here. This is where our people live and they work.
Councilman Landry.
Yeah, I want to thank you for being here this morning. It's very informative. Yeah, I'm a lifetime resident of here. There was a day where I used to say to people who came here for our quality of life, congratulations, I'm glad you realize it's here, but go home, because we wanted it all to ourselves. It's a great attribute to the area. We're also, relative to your industry, one of the motorcycle capitals of the world because of America, which gives you a lot of exposure. I'd just like to make, this is more of a comment than anything else. You made a comment that you're not a banker's dream. And I think that's why we have an LDC, is that we can't take taxpayers' dollars and take real risk investing in. So if someone comes and said, geez, I can't take get a bank or any investor to take a look at me because of risk factors. I think today banks have become a little more conservative and don't want to loan money out except to those perfect businesses that are out there. So I think that if you were here today asking for that initial money that you worked with John and Ed on, you're the ideal candidate who we want to do that. It's interesting to listen to you talk about where you are, how you've grown. And I think that we should give you some consideration to try and help you based on what you've proven to us already with your on-time payments, investment in the community, number of dollars that you've developed in the workforce. And I wish you well. My only concern about a company like yours is during that build out, you're going to become attractive to somebody else for a buyout. And there's no way to do this, crystal ball, if you want to take a look at that. And I always used to say, geez, do we want to get into that? And then all of a sudden we lose somebody. That's happened to us in the past. But I think that's just a gamble that you take in today's business world.
Yeah, and to that point, we have 27 verticals. So they fall in sports and athletics and motor vehicle crash helmets and in workplace safety. We talk to our investors about this on a regular basis, and we're always looking. Our business, our shareholders, our board of directors, they have experience getting into businesses and getting out of businesses. So we know how to do this. The bigger opportunity is when somebody comes to us and says, we love this technology. We want you to make it for us and make our helmets better. So when they come to us and say, whether it's Bauer or Rawlings and Easton, whether it's MSA who makes construction helmets, and they say, we want you to make the part. And we can make it here. We're a capital light business. It doesn't take billions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars to build us out like Regeneron or Global Foundries. It takes a small amount of money, and you helped us finance some of that to just with test equipment and all. If we can get that opportunity here, then we're able to create the opportunity that allows us to license this technology. We don't have to leave the community. We stay here. We make liners. And that's really our business. We're not in the helmet business. We're in the liner making business. And that business is good. Helmets don't work. And we know it's a global tragedy. People are dying, the traumatic brain injuries, concussion risks. People are stopping, parents are stopping their children from playing sports because of the problems with head protection. We're fixing that problem, and we're going to do it one head at a time, one vertical at a time. The opportunity to leave, that's always the case. We may license a technology and somebody says, well, we would like you to make our technology in, we'd like you to make the part in Cleveland. And if that's the case, if they say we want to do that, fine. But the expertise to do that is going to come from here. This is a community. Our robots are designed and built here. We have our training and our people. It's all portable. But if we can start to export to other communities or to other businesses, this technology, it will stay here. Research and development will always be here in Queensbury. Jay grew up in Lake George. I'm from New York. I commanded a unit in Saranac Lake. We know this area very well, and all of our people work here and live here. So the chances of us picking up and moving are unlikely. What we want to do is just continue to grab the opportunities and bring them here. So I saw there was another question.
Mark.
Mike was first.
Go ahead.
I was first. Thank you. Donnie, thank you for showing up. Couple of questions maybe for Jim and then you. Jim, has the banking community looked at the financials and the business plan, and have they had a chance to advise us on this move forward?
Well, the financials that they have provided as a part of the annual process are under review by our staff, and then we did bring them before the Banking Review Committee in general. Without a specific ask, we just simply did that as a matter of course. We haven't actually asked them to do anything yet. So I think that the question about where they would weigh in there is still open-ended. But I also wonder if it is, we have 7 people in our loan portfolio and our volume is not deep. I'm not 100% certain about our own process, but for an existing loan that we already have, we provided the forbearance, for instance, in this room. I believe it's in your purview to make any decision with an existing loan on your own. I think the Banking Review Committee was designed in order to bring net new business ventures and give you a risk quotient for it. I think they'll render an opinion if you would like them to, but I don't know whether you need to. I think this is a question for you as a board. Your bylaws do not say, they do not go into this detail that says that an existing loan, for instance, requires you to go to a banking review process. It says that anything new has to go through a banking review process. So I'm just going to give you my sense. Donnie knows, and I know from my experience, bankers take a much more conservative view. So I would imagine, without putting words in their mouth, that they would have a very risk averse view. That may be an important voice that you want to hear. It's certainly your choice. But I think ultimately the question of how to manage an existing loan is always the determinations of the board.
Okay, thanks. With that, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind.
Yes, go ahead.
The reason why I ask is because there's a prelude to my question for Donnie, because it's an intriguing business opportunity that you have from what little I know. Why are you only just asking for this? If it's a cash flow issue, if it's an issue with building inventory, it's an issue of getting the word out about your product. is there other assistance that we might provide that maybe the investment community isn't quite interested in doing? That we might take some interest in doing to help move this forward?
Well, I think, and we do, as Jim mentioned earlier, and Diane's part of this and the rest of the team from a business development perspective and opportunity. Once a loan's made, the work doesn't stop there. They move beyond that and begin to then help us socialize what we're doing amongst the community. And so their willingness to do that helps us grow. We're putting down deeper roots now. Right now, I'm negotiating a 5-year lease with our landlord. If we're not able to come to an agreement in that location, we'll need another location. We'll need to do that in the community. We've had those discussions. The idea here is there's a lot of things that we can ask for, even just support and some cheerleading from the sidelines. Sometimes it's not about money. It's about just having people be aware of what we're doing and that we're doing it here and why we're doing what we're about. So that's important. Having gone to the woman who was you're bringing back from Department of Commerce. I'm trying to think of her name. That you're going to have that another.
Oh, Rachel, yeah.
Yeah, having Rachel come back, understanding the community and what you do for workforce development. That's all important. Asking for more money, we're pretty conservative. We want to pay our debts. So right now, we know we've been able to continue to pay our debts. We haven't missed a payment. We're not asking for more money right now because we have to have a specific use for it. And if we do, we'll come back and ask for that. What we're asking for today and earlier is from just more time. By extending the time frame a little bit, it'll lower what we have to pay back on a month-to-month basis. The county continues to earn its interest rate. You'll actually collect more in interest by some of the proposals we've talked about, and it's better than the rates you're getting at the bank. So if we just continued it and could extend the tail a little bit, that would be terrific.
To your question, Supervisor Wild, we explored every option when Donnie originally brought their current challenges to us. And that's what we do with everybody. You know, even those that are in a current status, we're constantly discussing with them what additional resources they need, whether they're able to execute to their business plan. In this particular case, I think there are multiple moving parts. There's the part of Donnie's ability to continue to raise money in the community, from investors. And one of the things that an organization like us can do is to create signaling. If we are providing faith and confidence in a business, we are signaling to the investment community that there is something to build on. It doesn't cost us anything to do that, but it does have value. The second part is we have the ability to decide our own terms. Now, within the bylaws, we will always be a market plus, at least as our current bylaws are written. We are not writing loans below what's available in the open marketplace. But within that parameter, we get to define the times. We get to define within a range, the rate. That's always your purview. And you have choices there that can create both opportunity for businesses and also signals to the community. The third thing I would tell you is that this question about whether or not they would eventually be acquired. Angio was originally Navalist. It was acquired. Do we believe that was not worthy of doing? Would we say to any of the initial investors that turned out to be a bad thing for our area? It followed the exact vector that Donnie's talking about. The brain trust of that medical device company continues to remain here. There's a presence here, but there's also a manufacturing presence in other places, and there's economic value being seen in other places. I actually think that this is following the pathway that we're creating that plays to our strengths. We will never be able to support manufacturing of thousands of people. We don't have them in the workforce. But what we could do is create the place for entrepreneurs like this to decide this is where they want to build. This is where they want the intellectual capital for their company to be because it's a great place to live. And this is where they want to project their presence from. If we could do that in this avenue, the same way that this community was able to do around the medical device arena, this would be a wonderful legacy for not only us as a group, but for the community at large. But look, these are fragile things. I've been in Donnie's spot. I don't want to speak for him, but I ran a high growth business that was chewing through capital faster than I wish that it was. When you sell and people want your product, it creates ironically this problem because you then have to buy raw materials faster than you can receive your payments. And you're feeding your growth with the cash that you were trying to hold. And you eventually get to the place that he's at. Ultimately, what the choice that's in front of us right now is whether it serves us, the LDC, the community that we serve, and the company that is our partner to buy them some more time.
There's an old adage with what you say. It's a good problem to have.
It is.
Have a lot of market demand. It's still a problem.
I would
Oh,
just,
no.
I would offer one last piece here. We have a role that is typically not first in our ability to recover. That's just, primary banks or primary creditors to Donnie or to any business will be in front of most of our claims. We should always be realistic about that. Okay, we just got done talking about the fact that on a loan that did not go our way where we settled, we're receiving more than we expected, but when we settle, we're always wondering what we're going to get because we're kind of far back in line. If that's where we are, it doesn't make any sense for us to be the ones that move first on calling any loan. Because we're not going to receive the benefit of that. Our role, I believe, is to support small businesses like this and to help them through that risk trough. Sometimes it will work and sometimes it won't. I don't think our role should be to be the ones that execute discipline at the rate that a bank would.
Mark, and then T.
One, just to that point, if I might, before your question. We also, we're also in that position where we have really tight cost control, expense controls. And we had an SBA loan that came early, just before we bought test equipment, which was critical to our research and development. We're down to the last two payments. Our ability to pay back this loan now is greater than was when we first got it from the committee. And, we've been able to reduce our debt. We've been able to increase our income. We've added to our product line and we've brought in investment from the community. So our ability to do all these things and to pay back this money is stronger than it ever was. May not be to the banker's liking, but I can tell you that it's exactly where you can be at a company like this. This is my sixth startup. I've done this before. A lot of our members of our shareholder, our capital stack have done this before. Our board of directors have done this before. So I can tell you that this is only going to get easier as we grow, but the needs are going to get stronger and bigger. And having a collaborative community, and that includes this committee and the board, is critical to our future growth and our ability to stay in place. And that's something that's just practical. So I wanted to speak to that, but I understand you had a question.
Last night when I was having my scotch, I'm looking online, seeing reviews, and everything looks good. And fortunately, to get a good review, you've got to kind of be in a crash, but to get good reviews. And I wish that liner was available for a certain 18-year-old kid who hit a culvert at 65 miles an hour, like an exploding bike, and cracked a better helmet hat in the head. Don't worry, it was just my first concussion. There was more to follow. And actually, two of them were with Kevlar helmet.
Oh, boy.
So yeah, it makes you wonder, is there an application for this for the Kevlar as a liner?
There would be. I've done in other businesses, I've taken products through and put products on the space shuttle and the F-22 fighter and F-23, given products to the war fighters over time. Even currently, one of my companies is providing technology to the U.S. Army and Air Force for helicopters for fixed and rotary wing aircraft. So I understand what it takes to make products for Department of Defense and deliver them. I don't think we'll ever be the ones making the combat helmet, but I believe we can play a role down the line. The liner is interesting because when we make a type 1 and type 2 construction helmet, that type 1 and type 2 construction helmet is the same helmet that's used by the Army Corps of Engineers in non-combat related work. So I believe that if we can be successful at making a construction helmet, we'll be successful at selling this technology to Department of Defense. We'll have a partner, an OEM that does that with us. And that partner will use our liner as an ingredient. And as I say, we'll be the intel inside.
Yeah, so I was happy to see that your investors aren't ready to cut and run. A lot of times in BC, they want their 2 or 3x at the end of the day, but it sounds like you guys are in it for the long haul. Just a question, because it's not maybe appropriate, maybe even this year. Have you guys been bandying around the idea of an IPO?
Well, there's a lot of things to something like that. I think that we're going to be, our exit could probably more likely be, and this is something we talk confidentially to our investors about, so I'll keep it light here. But more than likely, it'll be something like an everything bagel. It'll be a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Somebody makes bicycle helmets and they want to buy our bicycle vertical and we sell that off to them. They're not interested in making motorcycles. They're not making combat helmets. It's not their interest. We have somebody that is interested in workplace safety. They make all hazards equipment. They make construction helmets. They make combat helmets. They make first responder helmets. They may want to buy our safety vertical and then we exit in that way. And it happens in parts and that money gets reinvested in the other verticals as we try to develop them. Beyond that, there's a few companies out there in head protection that could maybe be interested in us. I don't know that being a public company is something that's for us, but that's a long way from now. There's gonna be a lot of things happening before that to make that decision.
Sometimes it's a poison pill against private takeovers. That's one of the reasons I mentioned it.
Yeah, right now we don't have venture capitalists. We don't have private equity. We've relied on friends and family and leaders in the community that can make investment and understand the risks and have the tolerance in their investment portfolios. That's what made it so tough this last couple of years with the stock market volatility, inflation risks. A lot of the capital markets have kind of shut down. We've been able to manage to slog our way through that and keep the capital that we need to get things, the important things done. We're not doing all the things that we need to do, so sometimes we have to select from a list of things that we'd like to do the one most important thing. So sometimes Jim, you know this, and as a small company and a growing company, sometimes having less, being a little bit hungry, you start making the tough decisions that you need to make. If you have too much capital, you're not growing shareholder value, and you're also maybe doing things a little more with less discipline. And we find that because we're limited on capital, we really think about every dollar we spend, what's the return on that investment, and where does it get us on our path towards the end goal, which is making a great helmet and supporting our customers.
Gee. This is a little personal interest in me. I'm 100% for your way you want to extend your business, not borrowing more, but longer term. That to me is a great idea. I happen to be involved in a traumatic brain injury, and I wish your helmet would have been around years ago. My son died of that,
I'm sorry.
playing football for Army.
Um,
And Be 2 years now, it's still emotional. But
Oh.
you gotta keep this company going.
I'm so sorry to hear that. And,
Yeah.
sadly, in this role, I meet more and more riders every day in the work that we do and the events that we go to. I'd say hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of riders by now. And unfortunately, sadly, it's part of anything that we do. People that wear helmets in the work they do, in the games they play, in the hobbies they have, in the lifestyles they live. It is a hard thing, and I'm sorry for your loss. It's a hard thing. I appreciate that, and I wish we could have been there for him.
I've got one question, Don. The way to, I'd like to have you provide the lightest and safest helmet known to man. Okay, so the weight of your product. Is there a way of?
Actually, it's interesting you say that. It's a common comment that we get about the weight of the helmet. You need energy. Mass can't be created or destroyed. To diffuse energy, you need to meet mass with mass. Force needs to meet force. And actually, the unique thing about our design is by having a smaller, lower profile, denser helmet, which makes it feel heavier in your hand, actually creates a more aerodynamic experience. And so for a rider, and a rider who's a motorcycle rider who is hitting with force of 850 Gs, 850 times the force of gravity, you need to stop in a half an inch in less than 2 milliseconds. That force of 850 Gs. You need some mass to combat that. So for a rider who rides our helmet, they get a more comfortable ride. It's more aerodynamic. It doesn't move on their head like other helmets that are lighter. And then when there's a crash, it actually performs the way it needs to in defending the head and the brain against traumatic brain injury like his son had. As you change sports, as you change to sports or construction, energy levels change. Our helmet can be made lighter. That's for this application. So if you think about it, General Electric here, research and development, they're developing advanced materials. Well, for aircraft engines, it's the toughest, hottest application they have. And then you build for that. And that's what we did with motorcycles. We built for the toughest application. And then you waterfall, you come down to locomotives and power systems and then on down. So the materials then are able to perform at all those levels all the way down through the chain and become part of a product. So we're able to develop this technology from motorcycles, which is a heavier application, and get lighter as we go into hockey, into football, into other sports, and then we get into construction. Someday we'll make smart helmets. There's room now with a lower profile. It's an interesting thing. We could get into more detail, maybe if if we can sidebar, we can talk about the technology. There's a lot of room for development. That research and development is important, but weight is not the problem. It's the profile. Big and bulky helmets, small that are too big and uncomfortable and too hot. They create more torque in a crash. The smaller helmets are too light and unsafe. So you wind up hitting that sweet spot. And with his discovery and innovation, Jason was able to do something that no one else can do. And it performs the way it should in a crash, or the way a helmet should. And that's why with all the crashes that we have had and have been told about, the riders have survived the crashes. In many cases, we were told they were unsurvivable crashes by the doctors, the first responders, and the riders themselves. So we can say this is a great technology and it works, and we're going to keep it that way.
Any?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes. Sorry.
thank you. Is there an ask before the board at this time?
I only wanted him to come
Okay,
when he was available, just to give you an update.
okay.
Yeah, I appreciate the time. I know I've taken a little bit more time, but I appreciate the questions. They're very interesting. Again, I extend an invitation to everyone to come to our facility, meet the team, meet Jason, so you can learn about the technology from him. And then see what we're doing there and what's really making a difference across this country.
So what is the next step?
I believe that we should have our own discussion, whether it may not be today, given how long the meeting's gone, but perhaps in June. That's the forbearance will expire in July. And I wanted to make sure you had information so that we could decide before that occurs, what might be the appropriate next step. with the LDC.
Great. Sounds good. Anyone else as far as comments, observations? Seeing none.
Okay.
How about a motion to
Thank you,
adjourn?
Danny. Thank you.
I thought we were gonna talk about the interest.
Yeah, we can talk about the interest yet, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
So you have the ability, if you want, to direct us
Done.
to execute some part of the CDs, or we can forestall that conversation until the next meeting.
I think it's needed to be spoken, and I agree we should be the biggest part right now for the next 3 months would be better off. That's my opinion.
What question that you good luck. Thank you. Thank you.
On the chart that was provided here, Don, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Donnie.
Thank you, Don.
The 3 months investment cycle, can you run through that because it's a different amount? Or the red and blue, how, what?
Let's do investments, one's red, one's blue.
Sorry. So I just tried to make it legible for everyone. That's just the blue one, that's the 3 month cycle, and the red one is a different 3 month cycle. So if you were investing 400,000, you would get 2, 4, 12, 5,200. You would gain 5,200 on a 3 month investment.
Okay. And right now we have 200,000 in a CD, is that correct?
Right now we have 200,000. Yeah,
Okay.
204.
And we have in the TD bank account, 610,000
Mhm.
currently. So if we can take another 410 out of that TD bank. So that we have total investment in CDs of 600,000. Do you have a recommendation on how to cycle those?
So if you want to capitalize on the rates that as they are right now. I mean, we can do a 200,000 in May and a 200,000 in June. If you want to still maintain a bit of a cycle, or we can do the whole 400,000. 3 months, we're not going to make any big decisions in 3 months. I think that will,
That's right.
Yeah, and I want to avoid being paper rich and pocket poor. So that we, if we invest a lot of it, then we're rich on paper, but if something comes up, we got no cash flow and nothing on hand. So I think the 3 month roll like this makes most sense.
so
Okay,
do 200,000.
I think so. Very.
right. Well, we also have another $475,000 sitting in a low interest account in Glens Falls National Bank who aren't paying anything much on a CD. So if we were to use anything for working, for investing, we'd probably pull out of the Glens Falls
Mhm.
Bank and not the TD.
Although we will explore the opportunity to
Thank you.
move that into better interest vehicles with them.
4
And there's no restrictions on either one of these accounts or directions that they are for a specific cause.
There are no
Board directed restrictions on these funds that I'm aware of. There are minimum balances that are required in order for us to maintain the fraud protections that we've talked about.
But we wouldn't, leaving $200,000 in the account would cover that.
Okay. Instead of waiting for another month, you look at the 2 month and 4 month, they're all within shot of the 3 month. So is there any way to cycle through, invest another 400,000 and get them in step with that existing 600,000?
Oh, I see. Do a 2 month instead.
Well, we could certainly explore that, but I think if you were going to go down that, that wouldn't obviate your ability to put that money, some amount of money to work right now. And then we could essentially bring you back each month the opportunities to continue to do that with additional funds. So if you wanted to get even more aggressive, I had not asked her to do more than $400,000 in terms of total investment. So I just didn't want it to get so complicated that we were going through 5 different pages of 5 different scenarios. But I think we could put anywhere from $200,000 to $400,000 to work today, and we could bring back next month to you more opportunities to do so if you'd like.
Sorry, did I understand? I thought you were saying do a 2-month investment instead so that the cycle would be shorter. Is that? No?
Well, we have a 6-month already in place. So then what we'd be doing is bringing in, say, 2 other $200,000 in investments, and they would perhaps be in step then with the maturity of that 6-month, so that they all sequence. They come due in a sequence, not all in the same month.
Yeah. Yeah, I could arrange that. So the current investment will mature in October. So I can stagger these differently so that.
So let me just walk you through a scenario. If we made a decision today, put $200,000 into a 3-month note, roughly on the middle of August, that money would be available to you. If we then subsequently next month made a decision to put $200,000 more in a 3-month note, that would be available to you in the middle of September. And the existing 6-month note will come in October.
So why don't we just do a 4-month note and a 3-month note? It's 0.01% difference. The heck.
Well, we could do a 3-month note with 200,000 in May and a subsequently in June, another 200,000.
In a 3-month note.
3-month note. And so then the first one would mature in August, the second one would mature in September, and our current investment would mature in October. So it would be 2 3-month notes.
I'm just curious, if we were to withdraw early, what is the penalty? It's for getting,
It's meaningful.
without getting anything now
Yeah,
necessarily.
Yeah, you don't actually see any downside. You're just losing interest, really. You're losing whatever.
Using some of the interest, not all of it.
Not all of it.
Actually, I don't.
It's almost like a no-lose
But-
situation for us.
So we're talking about 400,000 from TD. We still have 475 in our Glens Falls National account. So.
Yeah.
I mean, short of some crazy disaster that has not ever occurred. Like, I think we're gonna have 475 in the national, and we're gonna maintain 200,000 always in TD. So we're always gonna have 675. Even with the rolling investment.
We did a 3-month and a 4-month now. That would then also get into sync with the 6-month that was invested earlier. And then when they become due, get them all into a
Okay,
3-month.
okay, yeah.
So it gets the money all invested today.
Yeah.
Coming due sequentially.
I have no trouble executing with what you just laid out. If you wanted to articulate it as a resolution, I think we could carry through on that.
So we're good.
We should.
Let's, so move to invest $400,000 into sequential investments in TD CDs,
So a 3-month and a 4-month.
3-month, a 4-month.
200,000 each.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion?
Who made the motion?
Craig?
Craig and Mark made the second.
Maybe we should take a roll call.
Chairman McDevitt,
Yes.
Craig Leggett,
Yes.
Eugene Merlino,
Yes.
Robert Landry.
Yes.
Michael Wild,
Yes,
Mark Smith.
Yes.
We will execute.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deanne.
Can I get a motion to adjourn, please? Supervisor Merlino, second by Supervisor Landry. All those in favor?
Aye.
right.
You
So
made
much.
the motion?
No.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Hey, Mark,
Yeah.
from what I understand, I have